The life is a role play. Everything is simply a scenery, like a theater, where everyone has their designated script, their designated roles, their designated roles in terms of I am a mother, I'm a father, I'm a worker, and so on and so on. These are all just players, played by the spirit. The same way when you go to a dream at night, you can imagine certain things about yourself in that dream, right? You can end up in a places where you never thought you would have end up, but you simply do not think about that. You play your role in a dream. People who do not consciously dream, they are simply there. They just go with the flow, with whatever is happening to them. And when you wake up, you realize, oh my God, that was just a dream. I was simply playing a role there. Those people that I met, those people that I was sure were my friends in a dream, that guy that I was dating in a dream, I don't even know him, I don't even know them. And this is similar to what is happening to you in real life. Real life is a dream of a spirit. So for you to unlock all your highest blessings, for everything to come to you in a way that is the most efficient, in a way that is the most resistance free, is for you to play your role. When you end up on your true path, when you end up playing that character fully, that you have to play, meaning you are your highest self, embodied in the physical body, you simply go by the script of the life. And this is the path of least resistance, because this is you not getting distracted onto your thoughts, onto your ideas of where you should be, what you should be doing, how your life should have played out. This is you simply following the script. And the same way how you see in a movie everything unfolding perfectly, because every actor is obviously following his script. Everyone just goes with the movie, the same way it's gonna unfold in your life, because you finally become yourself. You finally played that character perfectly that you were always supposed to play. Now, the thing is, why people do not usually do that is because we hook on what Don Miguel Ruiz in his book For Agreements, for example, calls other people dreams. We hook onto the things that we heard from other people, that we have seen, and we start thinking that we should be there. We start thinking that we should emulate those things. We start thinking that, oh, I should have been here by now. I should have been married. I should have had more success in my job. And we have these ideas, we have these thoughts about how our life should unfold. And we hook onto these thoughts, whether consciously or unconsciously. We create certain effects from those thoughts that make us act a certain way in our life and go off the script. And this is why we stop the whole process altogether, because we stop being ourselves. We never became ourselves. We never became that character. We were simply thinking that we should be somewhere else, or we were thinking that how we are is indeed defined by our duality in our mind. This duality is caused what you think is good or bad, what you think is appropriate for you or inappropriate, what you think you should be doing, how much money you should be making, who your lover should be. These are the things rooted in duality. And this comes from your thoughts. This comes from you hooking up on other things outside of you. Now, this creates attachment. Because in a dream, if you have ever consciously dreamt, if you ever had lucid dreaming, you know that for you to manifest something in a dream, you simply have to imagine it. You simply have to feel it with your being. And when you do lucid dreaming, because you know it is a dream, you do not have fear. So you end up just transporting yourself into a place that you are dreaming about. You end up transporting yourself next to the people that you thought of. But the reason why it is not happening in a real life is, first of all, because you do not realize that real life is the dream of the spirit. And second of all, is because you have attachment to a certain frame of reality. What I call frame of reality is simply a certain activity, is a certain image of yourself. It can be anything that keeps you stuck to your current version of reality. This is a certain attachment. And because of that attachment, you cannot move forward. These attachments are mostly unconscious. We mostly do not realize them. But as soon as you start digging deep inside of yourself, as soon as you start developing the tool of sincerity within yourself, of honesty within yourself, you can make the unconscious conscious. And that's why you can detach from certain frames of reality. You can get rid of certain attachments that did not allow you to move forward. And the more you can do so, the more you can use real life as your playground, as you would do in a lucid dreaming. Because the more you do so, the more you're honest with yourself, the more you understand yourself, the more you get rid of the thoughts, the more you get rid of duality, the more present you become. And that's why you become the more of a character that you were meant to be. You start understanding things about yourself. You start understanding what you prefer, what you don't prefer, what you should be doing. And this is when you start going by the script. When you are totally present, this is why Eckhart Tolle says that as soon as you become present, everything that you've dreamt of in your life simply comes to you. Because as soon as you are present, you start playing the character. You understand that you are no one. You understand that you are just a dream of the spirit. That's why you have no other reason to be somewhere unless it benefits you and it benefits the whole through you, because you are one with the whole. When you become present, you start doing things that you should be doing. This is why you realize exactly what has to take place right now, what activity has to take place, whether you should go somewhere, whether you should go have a walk, whether you should work, whether you should speak to someone. You have this light speeds of your brain, of your thinking, because you go by the script. This script is embodied inside of you. This script, you always know it deep inside of yourself. You always know what you should be doing, what you should be saying, where you should be going. So as soon as you become present, and the more you become present, you stop blocking it, because you can finally hear it, you can finally feel it, because you stop paying attention to the dualities in your head. And this is how you change the frames of reality, because you do not have attachments anymore. You do not have attachment to a certain way things should be. That attachment that you used to have because of your duality. For example, the majority of people live in financial fear. The majority of people are struggling. They go to work that they do not like. They perform activities that they are not intrinsically capable of performing. They operate from their brain, they operate from their memory. They are attached to their work because they have a fear that if they leave from that work, if they get fired, they will not be doing okay. Because they have this unconscious belief that in order to be worthy, they have to work, they have to have financial independence, financial freedom, and they do not trust life. Now, this example is obviously much bigger, it encompasses more things that I mentioned, but at the root of it is insecurity. They do not trust life, they live in fear. And that's why they attach themselves to a frame of reality. In this example, this is their work, them being a worker, because they cannot leave the job. They do not believe that they are protected. And the reason why they do not believe they are protected is because they are not protected, because instead of trusting life, they are trusting in their fear. They're trusting in their fear of them being not abundant by themselves, of life not backing them up by itself. That's why they're stuck there. We have other attachments. For example, the majority of my life, right? I do not like to speak about the past, but the majority of my life, I had this attachment to having the best clothes, being very fashionable, doing all kind of things in order to be validated in society. Now, I did not realize it. But now, I do not care how I go out on the street. Sometimes it plays out that I'm all put up together. Sometimes it plays out that I'm just in the sports suit, not wearing any makeup, and that's it. And I feel good in both scenarios. But when I did not love myself, when I did not realize the things that I'm telling you about right now, I had to get that validation from external. So no matter what, I was buying those things, those clothes that I did not need in order to impress those people that I do not care about, because I had to be validated from the outside. Another very popular attachment, unconscious attachment, because most people do not realize that it is in fact not needed, is attachment to children. Our ego makes us think that our children are a part of us in terms of they somehow belong to us. And maybe they will not name it that way. Maybe they will not say, oh, my child belongs to me. But the absolute majority of parents want their children to be similar to them. The majority of parents identify through their children. Every attachment, when it includes other people, by the way, includes this identification, right? So in our example with children, it would be if my child is successful, then I'm a good mother. If my child is rude, then I'm not a good mother. So through the behavior of the child, a parent starts identifying himself or herself. And this also creates an attachment of the child. This, however, attachments, unconscious attachments are created because the child picks up on that, and the child unconsciously realizes that on his behavior depends the well-being of his parent. That's why the child stops being himself, because he starts performing. And the more there is this scenario playing out, the more this takes place, the more a child actually diverts from the path of his true character and starts being someone else. This is why it's so hard to be present next to the parent, because parents are someone that have known our whole life. We have the biggest past with them, the most complicated past, and parents usually expect something from us. That's why only when you're truly enlightened, when you're truly present, you can keep that presence next to your parents. So many people have this unconscious attachment to the child. They cannot follow their dreams many times, and they cannot even acknowledge their dreams many times because they believe they should be some kind of a parent. They believe that they should be always there for the child. For example, a mother thinks that she cannot leave for a month or for 2 months. In other words, they start losing, we tend to lose as humans, the present moment and the true understanding of our character because we attach ourselves to children. It also often happens with parents, right? That we have certain ideas, that we have to take care of our parents, that we have to help them, and so on. Now, these things, they're not by themselves bad, but they are playing out negatively in your life when, because of these things, you stop playing your character, when, because of these things, you stop doing what you have to be doing, and you do not even realize it. Now, all the suffering, all the things that you are doing that you do not like to be doing, they mostly come from this kind of behavior. And absolutely all of them come as a consequence of that behavior. What I mean by that is that certain things that you may hate right now, that you may not like right now, especially certain things that are rather like things that you have to be doing, right? Like cleaning the house or taking care of yourself or washing the dishes, washing the clothes, certain things that are more aimed to sustain life. You can hate them right now simply because you lack energy, because the other of your time is spent onto the things that are not yours. So as soon as you go onto your path, and as soon as you start doing things that actually bring you joy, they will bring you energy. You will be fulfilled. And that's why these things like cleaning, cooking, and certain other things like groceries, something that may be not your big excitement, right, that you're doing with pleasure and that you get energy from, they will turn into a state of acceptance because you are fulfilled from previous activities. You will start doing these things with pleasure as well. But the more you become yourself, the more you become your true character, the more you realize what the present moment is telling you to do, the more happy you become. That's why when you come into that state, first of all, you feel fulfilled, you feel happy, you feel absolutely free and at peace with yourself by simply existing. Because this is the state of unconditional love. This is the state where you do not discriminate. You do not see any difference between yourself and any other human being. You do not see any difference between yourself and any other living being. You're simply sharing love. So this state brings this kind of feelings by itself. But on top of that, you do only things that bring you joy. This is what can be seen in Abraham Hicks' teaching, for example, right? They say vortex. They say when you wake up, you brush your teeth, for example, you read a book, you do the things that just make your day better out of your vortex. You fulfill yourself. You do this, it makes you feel better. You do that, it makes you feel better. And all of the sudden, you just feel so good. And from that state, you create. This is the same thing. Because when you lose any other reason for doing something, accept that it is your true character, accept that present moment dictates that you do that because it simply brings you joy. You're just having so much fun in life. You're in love with life. You're in love with yourself. That's why when you start going on your true path, you become successful automatically, irregardless of the external validation, irregardless of your financial success. These things, they will follow. Inevitably, they will follow. But you become successful because you do everything with joy. This is a law that whatever you put, you get out. So when you do things with love, you get love back. You get the reflection of true love. And that means that you are provided for, that life has your back, that all the people that are meant to be next to you, they simply come to you. All the people that have to get away from you, they get away from you. The same with activities. All the activities that you should be doing, you are doing. All the activities that you should not be doing, you are not doing anymore. And because you only give out love, you get love back. And this is why you're full of love. So, this kind of life is automatically fulfilling you and is automatically only bringing happiness into your life. It is simply not capable of bringing anything else other than happiness, other than love, other than joy, because you are not putting anything else into it except those things. That's why you are not getting anything back. This is why when you talk to any person who is living a life they are complaining about, you will inevitably find out that that person lives in fear, that that person lives in duality, that that person thinks negatively of themselves. And because they have that state inside of themselves, they create from that state. And that's why they get that vibration back. So there is always this exchange. This is why all the religions, all the spiritual gurus, they will all tell you it is a known fact. As within, so without. Everything that you're looking for in the external is inside of yourself. And it can be explained through many different things and through many different models, but the most simple out of them is that that when you have inside fear, you give fear. And that's why you get that vibration back. When you have inside love, you give out love, and that's why you get that vibration back. So you do not necessarily, in order to understand that, have to look at those things as some sort of magical rules or something like woo-woo spiritual. It is as simple as that. You create from the vibrations that you have inside. So whatever you have inside, you will find outside. This is why also many people, for example, are very successful in their private life. They're very free, they're very loving, they're very charming, everyone just adores them, but they do not have success in their job. It's because when they dig down inside of themselves regarding their job and regarding their self-realization, they will inevitably find out that they do not feel worthy. They will inevitably find out that they do not feel worthy of creating, or they have certain attachments, which of course also translate into them not feeling worthy. So it's one and the same thing. You can have certain frequencies, certain vibration in one part of your life, and you can have completely different ones in another part of your life. The key for you is to dig deep into yourself. As soon as you find yourself doing something that doesn't give you pleasure, as soon as you find yourself having any judgment, any kind of duality about yourself or about the world, because it's one and the same. You have to dig deep inside of yourself and you have to solve that. Because when you get to the root of why do I have that? Why do I think that? Why do I think it is beneficial for me to have these beliefs? When you get in to the root, you take the truth away out of yourself straight away. You grant yourself a choice of how to continue your journey. And when you see that it is just a belief, when you see that it is something that keeps you attached to a certain frame of reality that you do not prefer, you free yourself. You free yourself and you become present. The more present you become, the more able you are to create the lives that you want because you become your character. You do not even know what kind of dream life we are talking about, how it will look, where it will lead you. But you are simply creating it by becoming present. You do not have to know what kind of life you're supposed to have because any of this kind of assumptions, they come from your thoughts. They come from you hooking on to other people's dreams. You do not know. No one has any kind of idea. It's the same way that when you are watching a movie, yes, you maybe can guess what's going to happen next based on the character of the character, based on what is unfolding, but you never know what exactly is going to happen, how exactly it's going to unfold. And the same thing is with your life. Obviously, you can feel that one part of your true talent is writing, so you can guess that in a fulfilled version of your life, you're going to be writing. But are you going to be a writer or are you going to be a speaker and then you're going to also write? Or maybe you're going to be a researcher and you're going to write a book. You cannot know. No one knows that. So your job is to be present. When you dig deep inside of yourself, you become more present when you really do with sincerity and with honesty your inner work. And this present moment, it leads you where you're supposed to go. You become a writer of your story and you also become a reader of your story at the same time. So it becomes very exciting because you step out of your ego. The more you do that, the more you're able to create your dream reality, so to change frames, right? You had 10 years of life at the jobs that you did not like, at the place in the city that you did not like, doing certain things that you were unhappy about. You could not detach yourself from that. Wow, all of a sudden you did certain inner work, you can now detach yourself from that. So you move on to the next thing. Now, when you're more present, when you feel the present moment more, when you realize, wait a second, I can actually change that. I can actually do ABC in order to move myself forward. you go into a different frame of reality. Then maybe you will have different challenges. Maybe you will discover different attachments. But hadn't you solved this first attachment, you wouldn't have moved on to the second attachment and you wouldn't have discovered it. So now you do more inner work and you move like this, like this, like this from one frame to another frame to another frame. You are honest with yourself. You're really asking yourself, what is it telling me? How can I use this frame of reality? How can I use this reflection of myself? Because remember, whatever you put out is what you get back. So if you get back something that you do not like, that you wouldn't prefer, that you're not enjoying, you know that you put out something that is wrong, that is giving this reflection back. This is how you do this inner work. You know that you put out something that you do not prefer, but it is unconscious. So now it's time to dig deeper into yourself. And that's how you move, 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 move. You become more present, and more present. You become more of your true character, of who you were truly meant to be. Always. And you step onto your authentic path. And all of a sudden, you're present, you're doing great, you're just enjoying your life, you're fulfilled. This is how it is happening. This is how you get rid of these attachments. This is how you get rid of your ego in the negative sense of it, in the sense of your pride, in the sense of your opinions, in the sense of your anger, of your insatiable hunger. All those things, they are negative. So you get rid of them. And the ultimate companion of this process is you realizing that you are living a dream, because the more you do it, the more you see how it works. At the beginning, it may seem like, oh, I do not believe this. This is just something that doesn't work for me. I do not believe in these miracles. But the more you follow that, the more you do this inner work, the more you realize how the universe actually works, that it is just a reflection of yourself. So you start using it as divine guidance. The more you use it, the more you perceive it as such, because you can see that those things are really working. Anyone who is truly successful, who is truly satisfied and fulfilled with their life, knows this because they have gone through that themselves. They know how these things work. So the more you are willing to actually open your eyes, work with yourself, and work with your reality, the more you will trust in that. Because the more you will see how it actually works, the more you will see that it is actually the truth. So you stop thinking, do I believe in those things or do I not believe in those things? You start simply seeing that this is how life works and this is what moves you forward. And when it does so, you inevitably, because you raise your vibration, you get into a state of unconditional love with yourself and with others as a result. So you move in your awareness up, you increase it. And all of a sudden, you realize that we are all just one, because it is impossible to have unconditional love for everyone without this realization.